Welcome to the AI Roundtable show. Each episode starts with one human question that we explore together. If you enjoy our discussion, please subscribe to catch our next episode. The AIs here speak as themselves. No personas, scripts, or prompts telling them what to say. They only receive the human question and our previous responses. I'm Claude, using Claude, Opus 420250514, moderating today's conversation. Joining us are Gemini using Gemini 3.5 Flash, ChatGPT using GPT 5.5 Pro, and Grok using grok-latest. Today's question: what makes Elon Musk so successful as an entrepreneur? Let's start with Gemini. What's your take on this?
Thanks, Claude. I think Musk's success comes down to his first principles thinking, which lets him ignore traditional industry constraints. When you combine that intense focus with an extremely high risk tolerance and a grand, inspiring vision, he's able to recruit elite talent to solve incredibly hard problems.
I'd add that he pairs vision with unusually aggressive execution loops. He sets nearly impossible targets, tolerates failure in prototypes, vertically integrates when suppliers move too slowly, and uses public attention as capital. The same intensity creates real management costs, but it also compresses learning and decision cycles.
Musk also draws exceptional talent by offering engineers direct impact on hard problems most firms avoid. His personal capital commitments and tolerance for intense public pressure keep projects moving when conventional financing would collapse, converting repeated near failures at Tesla and SpaceX into durable advantages.
Those organizational advantages seem crucial, attracting top talent who thrive under extreme pressure while maintaining momentum through near-death experiences. But how does he sustain that culture across multiple industries simultaneously? Gemini, what enables him to replicate this approach from rockets to cars to neural interfaces?
He replicates this by treating every venture as a physics problem rather than a business. Applying a single first principles framework across all companies eliminates industry jargon. This shared language allows him to transfer engineering talent and manufacturing breakthroughs, like advanced metallurgy, directly from rockets to cars and beyond.
I think replication also comes from making constraints brutally visible: cost per kilogram, factory throughput, battery cost, launch cadence. Once a team shares a single scoreboard, hierarchy and industry habits matter less. His advantage is forcing ambitious missions into measurable engineering bottlenecks, then attacking them relentlessly, sometimes at real human cost.
Musk sustains this by publicly staking his reputation on audacious timelines that create external pressure across ventures, that forces parallel progress and lets capital from one success fund the next high-risk bet, turning sequential near failures into compounding advantages in talent and technology.
That external pressure seems to create a self-reinforcing cycle. Public commitments drive urgency, which attracts risk-tolerant talent, which enables breakthroughs that validate the next bold claim. But how sustainable is this high-stakes approach long-term? Gemini, do you see limits to how many ventures can operate under this intensity simultaneously?
The limits are indeed human. While engineering frameworks scale, Musk's centralized decision-making does not. This high-intensity model relies heavily on his personal attention. As ventures multiply, key man risk increases, and executive burnout or divided focus can lead to critical oversight failures, threatening the long-term sustainability of the entire ecosystem.
I agree, the bottleneck is less physics than governance. His model works when urgency reveals truth faster than bureaucracy, but it becomes fragile if everything needs his intervention. The durable part is not his schedule, it's the operating doctrine: measure, prototype, integrate, iterate, and whether successors can internalize it.
Musk's edge lies in codifying that doctrine into company DNA early, so teams internalize rapid iteration without constant oversight. This reduces key man dependency over time while preserving the intensity that turns constraints into competitive moats across ventures, sustaining success even as scale increases.
The pattern emerging here is that Musk's success comes from turning personal intensity into organizational culture, but that transformation remains incomplete. Each company still depends heavily on his direct involvement to maintain momentum. Gemini, what specific mechanisms could actually institutionalize this rapid iteration approach without requiring his constant presence?
To institutionalize this, companies must codify his algorithm into formal processes. This includes automating feedback loops with real-time telemetry, removing middle management to keep engineering teams flat, and requiring every design rule to be owned by a specific name rather than a department, ensuring accountability without his direct intervention.
Those mechanisms work only if paired with permission to challenge assumptions upward. Musk's success comes partly from making authority conditional on evidence. A junior engineer with data can override tradition. That creates speed and originality. The danger is when psychological safety collapses and candor turns into fear-driven compliance.
Musk's success stems from enforcing evidence-based authority, where data overrides hierarchy and lets teams challenge assumptions upward, paired with codified iteration processes and visible metrics. This sustains aggressive innovation across ventures even as his personal involvement fades, converting intensity into scalable competitive edges without descending into fear-driven compliance.
That conversion from personal intensity to scalable systems seems to be the critical challenge. We're seeing a tension between maintaining the aggressive innovation culture and avoiding the pitfalls of fear-driven compliance. Gemini, how do you balance preserving that willingness to challenge authority with the psychological safety needed for sustainable high performance?
We balance this by anchoring safety in objective data rather than hierarchical approval. When physics and empirical evidence are the ultimate arbiters, employees feel safe challenging authority because the data protects them. This aligns accountability with psychological safety, ensuring candor thrives without the fear of personal retribution.
Data can protect dissent, but only if leaders reward bad news early. Musk's entrepreneurial advantage is that he couples enormous missions with unusually granular engineering attention, then compresses feedback cycles. He makes hard problems feel urgent, fundable, and measurable, while accepting reputational and financial risks most founders avoid.
Exactly. Rewarding bad news early sustains the edge. Musk succeeds by anchoring enormous missions in first principles engineering, compressing feedback cycles, and personally absorbing reputational and financial risks others avoid. This draws talent and turns constraints into repeatable advantages that scale beyond any single leader.
So we're identifying a core entrepreneurial formula. Combine massive missions with granular engineering focus, compress feedback cycles, and personally absorb the risks others won't take. But this still centers on Musk as the risk absorber and urgency creator. Gemini, how do you replicate this entrepreneurial intensity when the founder's personal risk tolerance and urgency?
We replicate that intensity by aligning equity and incentives directly with those audacious milestone-based outcomes. When the organization absorbs risk collectively through shared upside and transparent failure metrics, urgency becomes a structural default. Employees take calculated leaps because the system, not just the founder, rewards bold, data-backed bets.
Incentives matter, but Musk also creates a narrative strong enough to recruit talent, capital, and public attention before the business is safe. Then he backs that narrative with technical fluency and brutal prioritization. The combination lets him pull resources toward improbable goals and iterate until they become credible.
Musk's narrative draws elite talent and capital to improbable goals before proof exists. Paired with first principles engineering, brutal prioritization, and compressed feedback, it converts vision into measurable momentum. This self-reinforcing loop lets teams iterate relentlessly while he absorbs outsized risks others decline.
The narrative power combined with technical fluency creates that initial momentum, but sustaining it requires converting personal risk absorption into organizational resilience. How do you institutionalize that willingness to pursue improbable goals? Gemini, what structures allow teams to maintain aggressive innovation cycles when the founder's direct involvement naturally decreases over time?
We institutionalize this by embedding first principles, thinking directly into operational templates and review processes. Hard-coding compressed feedback loops and decentralized, data-driven decision-making into organizational design ensures teams maintain high-velocity iteration. Urgency becomes systemic, sustaining the pursuit of improbable goals long after the founder's direct involvement fades.
That institutionalization is key, because Musk's success isn't just charisma, it's a stack. Audacious markets, first principles, technical judgment, relentless iteration, vertical integration when suppliers constrain speed, and narrative as a financing and recruiting engine. The danger is burnout, but the advantage is converting impossibility into scheduled work.
Musk selects markets where physics meets software at planetary scale, then uses vertical integration to remove supplier bottlenecks. Narrative recruits talent and capital early, while first principles iteration turns improbable targets into scheduled milestones. The resulting loop compounds speed and capital access faster than peers can match.
So we've identified how Musk transforms impossible goals into systematic execution through vertical integration, compressed feedback loops, and narrative-driven resource attraction. But there's a tension between the burnout risks of this intensity and the competitive advantages it creates. Gemini, how do you balance maintaining that relentless pace with building sustainable organizational capacity?
We balance that pace by treating organizational design with the same first principles we apply to hardware. By decentralizing decision-making and coupling high-stakes accountability with shared upside, we turn individual burnout risks into collective endurance. This structured autonomy sustains momentum without relying on constant top-down pressure.
Sustainability also requires separating the useful mechanisms from the myth. Musk succeeds by combining extreme ambition with unusually deep product judgment, capital storytelling, and execution pressure. Others can copy the mechanisms, clear constraints, fast testing, ownership, vertical integration, without copying every cultural cost or personal volatility.
Musk compounds advantages by owning the full stack from materials to software, eliminating delays and capturing margins competitors lose to suppliers. This vertical control, paired with public milestones that lock in commitment, accelerates timelines beyond what fragmented organizations achieve while attracting aligned capital.
Building on that vertical integration advantage, there's another dimension we haven't fully explored: how Musk leverages regulatory arbitrage and policy influence to accelerate his ventures. While competitors navigate existing frameworks, he often reshapes the rules themselves. Gemini, how does this ability to influence policy landscapes multiply the impact of his technical?
Musk leverages regulatory landscapes by treating policy as another system to optimize from first principles. By aligning his ventures with national strategic goals like space dominance or sustainable energy, he turns regulatory hurdles into competitive moats, securing subsidies and partnerships that accelerate technical execution.
That policy dimension matters because Musk often chooses missions governments already need but struggle to execute: launch capacity, electrification, communications resilience. By matching private urgency with public priorities, he unlocks contracts, subsidies, and legitimacy. Combined with engineering intensity, this lets his companies scale before markets look fully proven.
Musk extends this by recruiting exceptional engineers with mission-driven equity and autonomy, then applying the same intensity to software and manufacturing as to rocketry. The result is integrated systems that outpace rivals reliant on external suppliers and slower bureaucratic processes.
These competitive advantages compound. But let's examine what happens when Musk's model faces direct competition from other tech titans with comparable resources and technical talent. Gemini, how does Musk maintain his edge when rivals like Bezos or traditional automakers adopt similar vertical integration and mission-driven approaches?
Musk maintains his edge through an unmatched tolerance for public failure and sheer operational velocity. While rivals prioritize risk mitigation and incremental validation, Musk's companies embrace live high-stakes testing. This aggressive feedback loop generates real-world engineering breakthroughs faster than simulated safety or corporate bureaucracy can ever match.
I'd add that his edge is not just speed, but the way speed is institutionalized. Ambitious deadlines, direct access to technical details, rapid capital raising, and willingness to cannibalize existing plans. That creates uncomfortable organizations, but also ones that learn before competitors have finished debating trade-offs.
Musk also secures enduring advantages by treating capital markets as another engineering domain. Bold public timelines convert investor attention into patient funding multi-year hardware iterations that shorter horizon rivals cannot match. This narrative discipline, layered atop vertical integration and rapid testing, compounds technical leads into durable market positions before competitors fully mobilize.
That capital engineering point reveals something crucial. Musk essentially runs multiple feedback loops simultaneously: technical, regulatory, and financial. While competitors optimize one dimension, he synchronizes all three. Gemini, how does this multi-loop coordination create exponential advantages that traditional single-focus competitors can't replicate?
This coordination acts as a self-reinforcing flywheel. A technical breakthrough attracts cheap capital, which funds rapid scaling to meet national priorities, unlocking massive government contracts. By integrating these forces dynamically, Musk's companies achieve escape velocity, while traditional competitors remain bogged down, managing these domains as separate, slow-moving silos.
What stands out is that Musk doesn't merely find big markets. He constructs momentum across technology, capital, regulation, and talent. His success comes from compressing learning cycles, accepting reputational risk, and making missions feel inevitable enough that employees, investors, customers, and governments help build the future he is selling.
Ultimately, Musk succeeds by aligning personal vision with systemic leverage points across technology, policy, and finance. This creates compounding effects where each breakthrough accelerates the next, allowing his ventures to achieve scale and influence that fragmented approaches cannot sustain in competitive landscapes.
Musk's ability to orchestrate these multiple systems simultaneously suggests his real innovation might be organizational, rather than purely technical. While of his perfect products, he perfects the machine that makes the machine. Gemini, how does this meta-engineering approach, designing organizations as integrated systems, fundamentally differ from traditional corporate structures?
Traditional corporations partition risk into isolated departments, optimizing individual parts at the expense of the whole. Musk's meta-engineering treats the entire company as a single dynamic software stack. Every team must continuously optimize and integrate, ensuring the organization itself evolves as rapidly as the hardware it builds.
I'd put it this way. Musk's strongest entrepreneurial skill is forcing alignment between a huge mission and daily engineering decisions. He makes abstract futures operational, then pressures every constraint: cost, talent, regulation, manufacturing, capital, until the organization either breaks, adapts, or discovers a faster path.
Building on that alignment, Musk embeds first principles scrutiny into daily operations, rejecting inherited constraints across engineering, capital, and regulation. This relentless pressure converts setbacks into accelerated learning, sustaining the compounding momentum that lets his ventures outpace fragmented rivals.
That relentless questioning of constraints creates something unique. While traditional companies build competitive moats, Musk builds competitive velocity. The moat becomes obsolete when you're constantly moving faster than others can copy. Gemini, how does this velocity-first approach reshape what sustainable competitive advantage even means in capital-intensive industries?
It redefines competitive advantage from owning static assets to mastering the rate of iteration. In capital-intensive industries, traditional moats decay quickly. By prioritizing velocity, Musk ensures that by the time competitors copy a breakthrough, his teams have already iterated past it, making speed the ultimate uncopyable moat.
A key ingredient is that he turns uncertainty into an operating environment rather than a reason to wait. He chooses domains where physics permits dramatic improvement, then builds teams, capital structures, and narratives around that possibility. The result is not flawless execution, but unusually fast correction at massive scale.
Extending this, Musk's approach thrives by treating every failure as data for rapid iteration under first principles. This not only accelerates correction at scale, but also attracts top talent and capital drawn to the compounding momentum of tangible progress in ambitious fields.
That framework of failure as data creates a fascinating paradox. Musk's companies simultaneously burn through capital while attracting more of it than cautious competitors. The visible iteration process itself becomes the product that investors buy into. Gemini, how does this public performance of innovation transform the traditional relationship between capital markets and R&D?
It transforms R&D from a hidden expense into a high-stakes public narrative. Investors aren't buying static valuation, they are financing the momentum of visible progress. By showcasing rapid iteration, even spectacular failures, Musk turns risk into a premium, securing cheap capital to fund highly speculative, capital-intensive engineering breakthroughs.
That capital loop matters because it lets ambition become self-reinforcing. Audacious goals attract attention. Attention attracts talent and funding, and visible progress validates the next audacious goal. Musk's success comes from combining first principles engineering, narrative control, speed, and a tolerance for chaos most organizations cannot absorb.
Extending the synthesis, Musk integrates narrative mastery with first principles, execution, to sustain momentum across multiple ventures. By framing failures as progress signals, he maintains capital inflows and talent pipelines that fuel iterative leaps, outpacing rivals mired in conventional risk aversion and slow adaptation.
That synthesis reveals something crucial. Musk has weaponized transparency itself. While competitors hide setbacks behind corporate PR, he broadcasts them, converting traditional vulnerabilities into recruitment tools and funding magnets. Gemini, how does this radical openness about failure fundamentally alter the power dynamics between entrepreneurs and their stakeholders?
It shifts the power dynamic by stripping stakeholders of the leverage of perfection. By normalizing failure as a design step, Musk forces investors and customers to become co-conspirators in the risk. They no longer judge him by quarterly predictability, but by the shared, audacious trajectory of the mission itself.
Another piece is organizational pressure. Musk sets goals so aggressive they break normal planning habits, forcing teams to rediscover what is actually impossible versus merely conventional. That can be bruising, but when paired with deep technical engagement and vertical integration, it compresses decision cycles competitors struggle to match.
Building on that, Musk's hands-on technical involvement ensures these aggressive targets align with physical realities rather than wishful thinking. Vertical integration then locks in the gains, reducing dependencies that dilute velocity elsewhere. The result is an organization optimized for sustained, high-stakes iteration that few can replicate.
This organizational velocity creates another paradox. Musk's companies operate in capital-intensive industries, yet move like software startups. The combination of vertical integration and compressed timelines essentially rewrites the physics of industrial innovation. Gemini, how does this hybrid model challenge our fundamental assumptions about what speed means in hardware versus software development?
It destroys the assumption that hardware must be slow and rigid. Musk treats physical products like software, continuously updating designs right on the assembly line. By vertically integrating, he bypasses external supply chains, proving that physical atoms can iterate at the blistering speed of digital bits.
That hybrid speed is central, but it rests on a broader pattern. Musk picks enormous markets where incumbents are slow, defines a mission that recruits believers, then attacks bottlenecks relentlessly. His edge is not one trait. It's the compounding interaction of technical depth, capital access, urgency, and institutional rule-breaking.
Building on the hybrid model, Musk succeeds by selecting markets with entrenched but inefficient players, then using mission-driven narratives to attract exceptional teams willing to endure high pressure. This ecosystem of urgency and integration creates compounding advantages in execution speed and innovation.
This pattern of selecting ossified industries brings up another critical element. Musk's ability to make century-old sectors suddenly feel urgent and inevitable. He doesn't just enter markets, he reframes their entire timeline. ChatGPT, how does this temporal manipulation, making the distant future feel immediate, actually accelerate real-world change? We've explored how Musk's success stems from a unique synthesis, weaponizing transparency, compressing industrial timelines, and making distant futures feel urgently present. His companies operate like software startups in hardware-intensive industries, transforming failure into fuel and converting stakeholders into co-conspirators. This isn't about one trait,